My guest, Henry Ho, is a heroic case of succeeding in the Thai dream, if there ever were such a phrase. Having fled Myanmar in the 60s, his family set up a small gem brokerage in Bangkok, and Henry himself eventually rose to become one of the most successful jewelers in Thailand. Notable milestones in his career included gifting special cut diamonds for the Thai royal family, including the record-holding Golden Jubilee, as well as his establishment of the Jewelry Trade Center in Bangkok, which is Asia's largest gem and jewelry marketplace. We talked about his life story leading up to his success, how he's disrupting his own gemstone industry based on his vision for an open, borderless marketplace, and his desire to give back to society and the world, which is a trend that I'm noticing among many successful people I come across, the desire to shift the focus outwards to bettering the world. Joining me in this talk is also my friend John Fowl from Atlas Society, which is a network of entrepreneurs and investors from around the world that are working in emerging and sustainable industries. Actually, it was through the network of Atlas Society that I was able to make this interview with Henry Ho possible. So see the link in the description of this video for how to be a part of our network. So Henry, in the beginning, you actually didn't have a Thai citizenship, right? Would you call yourself an immigrant?
Yes, I would be an immigrant. Yeah, we left Burma, and it was sort of a struggle. I mean, the government, the military took over. They nationalized the banks, and they took away everything, and we had to apply for a medical reason for my mom to leave the country. And they took my brother and sister. They were like 3 years old and 2 years old as hostages. So
wow.
So that they would be assured that we'd come back. My dad said he'll be back in 5 years, but it took 50 years before we could go back.
50,
so
50.
50, yeah.
So
wow.
Were they held hostage for 50 years?
They weren't held hostage, but they were not allowed to accompany mom because mom was seeking medical treatment, right? So, okay, they said the 3 eldest can go. So I was the youngest of the 3. So I can still remember the flight leaving, and mom was like crying and bawling, and to leave her children back in.
But yeah, and the rest is history, because you haven't. You said you haven't gotten back in 50 years, and you went on to do amazing things in Thailand. For example, just to highlight some milestones that you have in your career here, you gifted numerous special faceted diamonds for the royal family, one being the world record, the Golden Jubilee for the king. And then that was in around 1995. And in 1997, you established the Jewelry Trade Center in Bangkok, and that became, from what I know, is Asia's largest gem and jewelry marketplace. So those are some milestones in the 90s. And you said you came to Thailand in the 60s. So I think a lot of people would be curious about how a Burmese migrant rose to become one of the most successful gem and jewelry tycoons in Thailand. So how could you talk us through your career starting out as you came in Thailand, leading up to from the 60s, leading up into the 90s?
Well, Jen, I'm quite humbled by your introduction. Actually, I don't really consider myself that successful. There are many great people out there, but my life story, if I could share, I think is quite interesting. A lot of things that happened was not planned. It was all accidents, and then one thing led to another. So my advice to the younger generation is to, keep your eyes open and see where you can contribute the most and make your mark.
That's beautifully said.
Okay. So how did you get started in the gem and jewelry industry here in Thailand?
Well, I was about 5 at that time when we arrived in Thailand, and Dad had like $2 in his pocket. So he became an insurance salesman for AIA, and he did a great job. In fact, he traveled from Bangkok to Hong Kong and Singapore. He made 3 trips trying to decide which country to stay. In fact, we stayed in Hong Kong for a little while, and I studied in the elementary school there. But finally, my dad decided on Thailand because he thought that Thailand was right next to Burma, and the key decision that drove him to settle in Thailand was the people. The people were warm, friendly, and it was not like Hong Kong where everybody was in a rush.
Yeah.
And you either step on them or they step on you. And Singapore was a little bit too clockwise for him. So he thought that he would establish himself here. So he opened a gem brokerage office, and he collected like 2% from the seller. But he already had a reputation for being an honest, reliable gem dealer. So that's when the tide started to change. Previous to 1964, Burma was still the center of gems. They had the best rubies, best sapphires, best jade. But when the military government took over, they had no commerce. Everything was restricted. So Thailand started to emerge from ground zero, and now is the gems capital of the world. Meaning, any gems that has color has to go through Thailand, because it's where all the manufacturers are and all the craftsmen are, and they process it, they design it, and they set it, they re-export it. So it's actually a big income earner for Thailand, which is what we should be doing. Yeah.
But hey, I knew you, Henry, and I know some other businessman in Thailand in the gem industry, but come on, you have been building the epicenter of the whole ecosystem by creating that immense skyscraper. So, it's not everybody who had that idea and who had that network. So how did you pull this off, really? Because that's very inspiring. This building will be here for generation, right? So tell us about that. How did that happen?
Well, it was a dream. Actually, the idea of a jewelry center was like from my dad, and he wanted to make it in Los Angeles 15 years prior to my doing JTC. But he was so ahead of his time, we weren't ready. But when we came back, and I was overlooking this property from my office, and in the morning I would tell my secretary, Elizabeth Moiter, and she's from Germany, and I said, Liz, I'm gonna buy that land one day. And it was just a dream, and you keep focusing, and then it happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But mind you, there are other jewelry centers too, so what I'm trying to do now is to connect all the jewelry buildings in Siloam, Suriwong, and near the Oriental Hotel. So we would have at least 3,000 dealers, B2B dealers connected. And then I will hook myself to Chantaburi and other hubs. So we really have an interconnected community where we can buy, sell, and trade.
Now, from my understanding, that was a huge joint venture. I mean, you collaborated with huge conglomerates in Thailand, Bangkok Bank, Channel 3, Central Group. So how were you, a Burmese migrant, able to step up and mobilize the top conglomerates in Thailand and like you said, sell them your dream and get them on board to do such an amazing accomplishment like this?
Well, I guess it's a series of accidents. Kun Samrit Jiratiwat, who is my father-in-law, he's passed away. He has a little property called Ban Silom. And then he wanted me to do something to connect the Central Silom branch and the open land in Ban Silom. And then we were gonna buy some more land and develop that. It was about the time that Kun Tot Jiratiwat, the son of Samrit, who's now the CEO of the Central Group, he had just returned from United States, and it was like in a family thing. So I was doing the research and doing the calculations. But as I did that, I already had the idea. So I studied all the available properties on Suriwong, Zilom, Sathorn. So when Kun Samrit told me the numbers, I knew, the returns and etc. And we had problems building on the smaller property, which was 2.5 acre, because Kun Samrit needed car park spaces of about 250 car parks in order to build the size and scale he wanted. And then when I discovered this piece of land, which is the largest piece of land on the most important street, business street, Selam Road, the numbers came out brilliant. And I told Kun Samrit, please come as my partner, park your cars for free, okay? And let's build a bigger one. And then when Kun Samrit agreed, I had to find the owner. It so happened that the owner was related to me, but that's another story. But when Kun Samrit joined, the landowner also joined Bangkok Bank. Bangkok Entertainment, the largest private TV channel in Thailand. So he joined, and then Kun Chatri joined from Bangkok Bank. So we have a happy group here. And it was so good. The timing was so good. I mean, at that time, we didn't have much. We just had an idea. And we started to sell the idea, and people put money down. It was an option. People put money down, and as I progressed and got the designs, they put more money down and more money. So I raised about, I think about $700-800 million baht at that time, before we had anything. So it's just about, focus and the belief that you can do something, and you got to get other people to believe you.
That's amazing. Very inspiring, and not only for jewelry, right? For everything. I think every businesses need to have this skill of making people believe in your dream.
Yeah, seriously. So, maybe you've answered that a little bit too, but what I wanted to ask is, if you look back at your career here, what do you think? Do you think you've identified some principles that you consider to be universal to success in any business venture?
I guess for any business challenges, you got to know the pain point, and if you can make the business proposal to be as simple as possible. So simplicity is one, and then you got to know how to solve the pain points for the people, and then the rest is just focus and the hard work and honesty that comes after it. There's no brilliant solution. I think everybody can do it if they really have the mindset to and set the goals and achieve it step by step. It's not going to be like a quickie where you find a golden mountain and become a billionaire. It doesn't happen like that. Everything leads to something. So those of you who are looking for a dream, have a self-evaluation, take stock of your own self and see your strengths, your weaknesses, and go a step at a time. No shortcuts. It doesn't happen. Success doesn't come so easy. Everything is hard work, and you gotta put in the hours.
So I know we've been talking about the past a lot, and we'll get to what you're focusing on right now. But just one last question on looking back to your career. I'm just curious. So let's play a hypothetical situation. If you were to transport your younger self when you got started into today in 2021, do you think the business environment would be conducive to your success? Do you think you would have the same level of success or not? If so, why or why not?
I cannot think that far, but I realize that you learn and you take you make plans 3 to 5 years ahead. Of course, you have your short and long-term plans, but I think you always have to keep improving yourself and keep learning and innovate. So this is why my few last chapters, I consider myself a senior person, elder person. So I'm planning for my exit from this world. And, you know, maybe the last few things I will do, I try to pass along what I can and what I've learned.
I think, I'm sorry, I think a better way to have asked that question is actually, do you think today's environment is as conducive to entrepreneurship? Do you think the environment is friendly for individuals to start from scratch and start a venture on their own in 2021?
Yes, I think so. I think you shouldn't have any excuses. And any time, any period of your life, you have those challenges. It's up to you to embrace them and improve yourself. I mean, you know, I don't believe that it's harder or easier. It's just it's different it's the same for everybody. Everybody can do it.
Every generation have its challenges.
Have their own
right?
challenges. Yeah.
Right. Our parents had to break the Berlin Wall or avoid nuclear war. And we have COVID and climate change, right? But I want to build up on Jed's question a little bit. Like, where do you see opportunities for today's world, right? Because if you were starting just now in 2021 and you were, I don't know, 20 years younger, where do you see the opportunities in the world? At that time for you, it was gems. What will it be today, in 2021?
Well, I think if you talk about 2021, we've been struggling with COVID-19. COVID-19 has actually really dampened and put a stop to commerce. I mean, you drive down the street, every other building is for rent and for sale, and there are about 20 hotels on the block for sale right now. There's great opportunity in every adversity. And for me, I'm embracing digitization. I'm embracing new technology and the internet. And I'm trying to connect the people so that we can make our sales and business more efficient and not be restricted by the distancing and the travel restrictions, etc. So I think there are great opportunities.
Interesting. And that's where you are starting to really push hard this community you've built over the past decade to digitize as well. So maybe share us about that. Like, what's the plan? Because you've told me about that offline, about your dreams of digitizing this ecosystem. So first, why to digitize, and what's the opportunity? And maybe later we'll talk a bit more about ESG. Okay, but first let's start with the digitization.
Well, as I told you, life, sometimes you make a plan, it doesn't work. Sometimes you don't make a plan, it forces you in a certain direction, and then it molds you and it leads you. I can share with you, I mean, 2 years ago, I had a big medical setback. It was cancer of the 3rd stage. So that really knocked me out, and it took me 1 year to recover. And the doctor said, like they usually say, if you pass the 5-year mark and there's no traces of cancer, then you probably survive. But so I'm in my 2nd year. So after my 1st year, I started to think, what can I do? I've been with the building for since day one. I got to do something. I haven't decided to raise goldfish or be a gardener or paint or write poetry. So I said, okay, my limitation as a physical building is only 55 stories and I have 1,500 tenants. But if I can put this on the platform, electronic platform, I could have numerous ones. I could have one in New York, one in Geneva, one in Shanghai and Tokyo, and everywhere there's a hub, in Antwerp and Israel. And that would be the true trading platform. It would not just be Jewelry Trade Center, it would be a global platform. And instead of 1,500, I could have 15,000 or 30,000 buyers and sellers connecting with each other. So that's become my new dream. But mind you, I know very little about computers or IT. It's just an idea. Now the challenge is to make that idea come true.
That's very. This is what I like with you, Henry. Honestly, like you've been impressing me every time we caught up with each other. You're very humble, but you know so much more than you say, and I really admire that. You know, a lot of us, we're young, we're very proud of our achievement, and we talk a lot about this, but you've done so much, and you stay very humble. And even when you know something very deeply as a topic, you don't talk about it that much. So I think that's the underlying lesson here. So
On
let's.
the contrary, I was very impressed when I first met you on your birthday. I met you, Jet, and your whole team. And ever since that day, I've been following you, trying to learn from you, because you guys are the techie guys, and you guys are the cutting edge people, and you innovate, and you have so many ideas and good values. So I need to learn from you guys.
Yeah, that's why we are here together to exchange.
That's why we're collaborating, learning from each other. Exactly.
Cool.
So you talked about your jewelry trade center, aligning it, digitizing it. We can see that the digitization of the supply chain. You talked about the benefits of the digitization of the jewelry trade. So in that way, you'll be able to connect with jewelry trade centers around the world. So there's a clear benefit to digitization there. And then you talked about you want also align the building along with ESG and SCG goals. And that's more of a way of bearing the flag, like John says, of a model of what you think is a sustainable business, sustainable and good governance practice into the future. And also, you've said that you want to establish the world's first B2B to C gem and jewelry. You say e-silo supply chain platform. That's a really, really long goal you have there. So can you elaborate on what this is and what are the benefits of doing this?
Well, when COVID-19 struck, no buyers could come to Thailand. So my tenants were like, cannot do any business. So we gave them rent reduction, 30%, then 40%, then 50%, then 60%. So I told my board, even if you give them free rent, they will still not make it because they can't connect. So it sort of led me, it was just logical to build a platform. So there are about, I believe, more than $10 billion worth of assets, products in this building. Everybody has a little safe, and a little safe, they're little drawers full of diamonds, gold, money, cash, colored stones. If we can only digitize that, we can make it available to the world. So this is what I'm trying to do. And I want to do it in many, many cities. So I've already established a connection with New York. We're signing the contract this week. They represent about 25,000 dealers in America. So I'm going to sign another one with Japan very soon. They have about 1,000 dealers. So you see, it's not just about Thailand alone, it's about connecting the world, because that way we have diversity, inclusiveness, and we can really buy and sell from each other.
So what does that mean? You're connecting the assets of each merchant. So what does that enable the merchants around the world to do?
So instead of having your merchandise laying in a safe without people being able to inspect it or see it or promote it, you as a one small dealer, it's very difficult for you to find markets. But by digitizing your inventory and putting it available, people can see what you have, and you can actually talk about it yourself. And then your rubies may be something a New York diamond dealer wants, and he may want to sell diamonds here, and we may want to sell the rubies there. So this is what trade is all about. I mean, we drink Italian wine, French wines. I hardly see people drinking Thai wine, no offense, but the world is about commerce and trade and diversity. This is what we have to do. We have to make friends with each other. We have to engage with each other instead of going to war and being nasty to each other.
So you're saying
trade
you're,
leads, yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
trade leads to friendship, and and the benefits for everybody. It brings in the income, it lifts the income level of everyone as a country. So I really
So,
believe in connecting each
so
individual. Yeah.
okay, so based on what I'm hearing, so you're saying you want everyone to basically make their inventories transparent globally, so everyone can see each other's inventory and be able to trade more efficiently. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's all relative. I mean, meaning that if you have no business for 2 years, I mean, how long can you go, right? So it makes sense for you to get out and find new customers and find new ways of dealing.
Yeah, adapting.
You're just forced to do it. So if you don't do it, I mean, then you can be yourself and stay in the corner and wait for another shiny, shiny day. I mean, it's
So
not
it's
going to
like
happen.
a global database of
It
gem and
is.
jewelry inventories all around the world,
Right,
basically, right?
So
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, I see. Yeah.
We have a lot of add-ons, and not only if you need cash, we have a gem bank that gives you cash in advance. And we help you market this. It's sort of a bridge loan that solve the illiquidity for the moment. And then we try to promote your products and see why it deserves to be sold. And you, the owner, you should know best.
Do you think this model of making a global database of inventories between among different industries, is this something that you think can or should be applied to other industries as well, not just gem and jewelry?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think more and more businesses will embrace technology, and more people will digitize and to find new ways to expedite and make the processes more efficient. It's just the internet age. We can accept that the internet age is now gone to another level of technology. It used to be the internet of information. Now we have the internet of value. We can actually do what we've never been able to do, is to send value across the internet to anybody, anywhere, through your iPhone, through your phone. So that's really cool. And if we don't use this technology, I fail to understand why. It's so logical, it's so convenient to do cross-border remittances, etc. So I'm so excited about this whole new space.
Just curious.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Just curious. Obviously, you see the benefits of cross-border commerce and all like that. However,
yes,
I feel like there will still be existing entities that are may not want a completely open and transparent marketplace, because these are the people that want to collect fees and charge tax and be the gatekeepers and all like that. Do you see what are some challenges do you see that standing between this goal of having a open, transparent global marketplace?
I think everybody is thinking hard. Every country in the world is thinking hard about digital assets and how you digital currency, digital assets. And believe me or not, I think in 5 years' time, the internet and the people who embrace this technology will win. Of course, there will be always the doubters and the traditionalists. They have the right to exist, but let them deal in cash. But let them. How are you going to, remit $1,000, $100,000 across, to another country? And simply, it can't be done. So I think, financial entity, banks, and countries, governments, central banks, they're all thinking. So there's a big rush here. But that's the challenge. I hope you guys will help me achieve those ideas that I've been thinking about.
So you're saying it's inevitable that eventually everyone will need to embrace this?
Well, most people will use an email. Most people will carry a smartphone. You can choose not to, but that's your choice. There's nothing wrong with it. But Jesus, if
Adapt
you
or
go
die.
international, yeah, you have to include. This will enable the unbankers or the people without the bank accounts, the small guys, to benefit. I sincerely believe that. Yeah.
So speaking of adapt or die, so you're disrupting and innovating your own jewelry business, and to make it more
Absolutely.
global and connected and borderless and all like that. So that being
Absolutely.
said, will Asia's largest gem and jewelry marketplace still be in Bangkok then?
I think the building will still exist. I think, in fact, it would be more dynamic and more popular. If we have like 30,000 visitors per day, it could be through this infrastructure and this connection that we make, it could triple and quadruple easily, because more people know about it, more people can come and see and touch and feel and experience the shopping experience. It's not only on the internet; it's an omni-channel strategy.
So digitization is important. This is, the war for the past 10 years and probably for the next 10 years ahead. The business rulers of the past decade have been seeing the rules redefined with COVID. E-commerce players have been growing so much and retail players have been suffering. So it's obviously something your business will be looking at. But this is also something that hit me when I talk to you, is this concept of giving back, right? So that's the second big pillar I've heard coming back every time I talk to you. So digitization and giving back. And maybe that's your medical episode that gave you that lightning. Why do you care, about ESG, about the SDGs so much recently? And yeah, tell us about this shift of mindset.
Well, I think we can see that when we go anywhere, to the beach or to a riverside restaurants, the pollution, the plastics that we throw in the waterways, the air that we breathe in Bangkok, I mean, it's just not clean enough. And as leaders of our industry should set an example and do something about it. So it's not just about the thought. We've got to see how we can pitch in. And if everybody pitch in a little bit, I think we can have a better world. It's so critical. I mean, if you can't breathe, what good is it to stay in Bangkok? I mean, right?
Yeah.
So that's my commitment. I mean, I want Bangkok to be a cleaner and more environmentally friendly city. I mean,
yeah, and I'm glad, I'm seeing more and more senior businessmen thinking alike, and this is great, because for us, this Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Y, we've seen a lot of these things on TV, on Facebook. We see Greta Thunberg, and she's like 10 years younger than me, so I kind of feel bad not
Yes.
having done what she's doing. So it's great now if we can all connect those generations together and take some action. So tell us a little bit, what actions do you aim to take, or do you just dream to take, or do you talk with your other senior business relationships, Central, all these conglomerates? What are the discussions around ESG, and are these people caring? And if they care, what are the things they're thinking to do in that area?
Right, the action plans.
Yeah, I think the Central Group and many other larger groups, they are quite aware of it. I think that the general businessman is still not on board yet. So we need to get everybody on board. First thing, we start from ourselves. We start to separate the trash. Okay, we start to think how we can decrease our carbon footprint, and all sorts of little things. I mean, reusable, cups and utensils instead of one-time use plastics. All these contribute to making this a better habitable world.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see your team doing similar things like Lucky Trash and etc.
Yeah.
So are you saying those are the policies that you'll be adopting at the Jewelry Trade Center, what you mentioned in terms of recycling and carbon reduction methods and all like that?
Yes, we are educating the tenants here step by step to separate the trash and to turn off the lights, and whatever we can do to save energy and to use energy more efficiently.
I think one
Yeah.
obstacle for a lot of businesses, and I think especially businesses that may not be as successful as you, they may see the need to meet ESG or SDG goals as, say, maybe a burden on their overhead or an extra thing to think about. So how would you help businesses overcome this mindset of being how to be sustainable and have it benefit the business itself?
Actually, from a business point of view, I think that the conventional thinking that the ESG and the SDGs goals are an additional cost, I think it's the reverse. If you embrace these values, I think the consumer and the buying public appreciates that. In fact, I'm going to input in the lease agreement and give preference to those people who are aligned with us, with our thoughts. And
That's
those
beautiful.
people, after 2 or 3 years, they don't follow, our policies. They can go elsewhere because we need to get together and be a force. Now,
Yeah.
nobody can change the world by an individual, but if we all group together, it gets better and better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
legally, I'm going to implement it in the lease contract.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great to hear that.
Including IP, intellectual property, and things like that. We don't go and just copy, other designers. We have to be original and we have to think. It's too easy to copy. So I actually have a clause in the rental contract that you'll be disqualified if you infringe on those practices or regulations. Okay.
And there's ways to get buildings to be completely green as well. I mean, firstly, you could re-isolate the building to use less energy to keep the air cool, for example. That's pricey and it will take time. You could also use, solar energy, wind energy, and others to produce energy in the building. But also, you could just simply buy carbon credits or planting trees or absorbing carbon, on others. Companies doing that. So there's ways to get the building to zero energy. And today, the price for the carbon credit is still cheap compared to what it will be next 5 years. So that might be ways you can explore as well. We'd love to discuss that with you in the future. But at least the sentiment is here, the will is here. But I think, this is not the biggest thing you can do for the ESG. I believe the biggest thing you can do is mentoring young entrepreneurs in that ecosystem of climate tech and sustainability tech, just giving them advice on business and inspiring them, hopefully with this video and hopefully with more one-on-one interactions by you coming to our dinners and others. I think that's the biggest thing, because that's what those entrepreneurs will need really the most, those advices.
Sure,
So
let's do more of it. Yeah, let's do more of this. Yes.
So that's a great question there. So you're obviously someone who has thought this through, and it's one of your passions to give back to the world, and you really have a genuine desire to contribute. But I think you're still in the minority at the moment. You're still ahead of your time. So I guess the question would be, how would you mentor other businesses or startups that may not be as mindful about sustainability as you are? How would you convince them to operate in a way that are aligned with these sustainability goals?
Well, persistence is important, and I think the best example is myself as an individual. I have to show them that I believe and I really walk my talk, you know, and they can see that I pick up trash and I care, and and hopefully one day they will change. So, and there are rewards. I mean, people appreciate this, you know. All the big brands and from Europe, they require that we take this route of being more kinder and gentler to the environment, and so many other goals that they look at. You know, ethics is one of them, and being committed to fair labor and etc. You know.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, and I think there's a lot to do. This is something it's really spread in the US and in Europe. This mindset is really there for a while now, but in Asia, it's something that is just getting to start. So we're honored to have you as leading the flag, you know, of this spearheading this as one of the Southeast Asian successful businessmen. Lastly, I would like to know any tips or tricks for entrepreneurs to crush, you know, entrepreneurship like you did in Asia. And as you mentioned, it's timeless, right? It doesn't matter what time, what generation it is, there's always challenges. But is there one tips for entrepreneurs specifically on the ESG sector, those entrepreneurs, you know, like the one we invest in with Atlas that are trying to fight the climate change through technology? Do you have one sentence to give them? It could be a sentence of encouragement, or it could be a sentence as an advice in business, anything that you believe those entrepreneurs will hear, and that's like a life-changing thing.
I guess right off the bat, I think that it all starts with the individual. So I believe that you have to have that mindset that you make a difference and you need to commit to doing something for the goals that we as a whole are talking about now, ESG and SDGs. You can make a difference. So I encourage you not to lose focus. Remember that we need you and you need to take that step.
Well, Henry, thank you so much for being here, sharing with us your life story from the very beginning. It was great to see your mindset of success, rising up, being a Burmese immigrant, which in Thailand, you know, the stigma with that, but you didn't let that get in the way. That was not an excuse. You talked about always being aware of what the pain points of the customers are and being persistent with giving value to them. And really appreciate to hear about what's on your mind right now in terms of where you see the global marketplace going in terms of digitization, and how you feel that good governance and ESG and operating in a sustainable way is important to continue to operate business at a global level like that. And so it was a very, very inspiring talk, and look forward to meeting you in other settings and having an inspiring chat with you again. But meanwhile, thank you so much for your time.
I want to thank John. I want to thank John, and I want to thank Jed for this opportunity. And I want to tell you that this is the first time I've given an interview. So I feel quite honored, and it's a change. I don't like to talk about myself, but you are the first person to interview me live.
There's a lot more coming. We'll get you to interview for many.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Ciao.
Have a nice day. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.